Welcome and happy Fat Tuesday. I'm Tony Abelgan, I'm the Modern Mixologist, and thank you for joining us for a priceless Mardi Gras mixology class, brought right to your homes by your friends at American Airlines and MasterCard. We're going to be covering some great tips today on how to elevate your bartending game so that when friends and family stop by, you can make them a great drink. And we hope you like these cocktails so much that you'll stop by our restaurant, Libertine Social in Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas, next time you make a trip, which is easily accessible by an American Airlines flight. Now, I started doing these Making Great Cocktails at Home seminars because it dawned on me that consumers were somewhat intimidated to attempt making great cocktails at home. They thought that only the high mighty priest, the bartender standing behind the great altar, the bar, could possibly conjure up such wonderful libations as this classic New Orleans staple, the Hurricane, that we're all going to make together. So I say we jump right into it. I'm a little parched, and it is Mardi Gras. So in your kit, you received our Modern Mixologist Boston Shaker set. This consists of the 16-ounce mixing glass and the 26-ounce brushed stainless steel tin. They work together. Now, if you've never used a Boston Shaker, it is the chef's knife of the bar. The way it works is the liquid ingredients are going to be added to the glass without ice. When we're ready to mix the drink, we place the ice into the mixing tin. We then transfer the liquid ingredients into the tin on a slight angle. We twist, we pop, and that makes that seal. Now, when we're ready to shake, you always want to shake with the tin forward. And as Harry Craddock said in the Savoy cocktail book, circa 1930, when I asked the proper way to shake a cocktail, he said you want to shake the cocktail shaker as hard as you can. You want to wake the drink up, not rock it to sleep. So it's like a piston where you throw the drink from one end to the other. And when the drink is thoroughly shaken, 2 fingers on the glass, 2 fingers on the tin, and where it angles up, you'll find the sweet spot. And with the fingers pointing to the high heavens, you just pop the sweet spot and it comes right apart. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready. Also in your kit, you saw some filthy black cherries. Generally, this drink calls for grenadine syrup. Now, the drink can be a little on the sweet side, and you could cheat it and buy the Hurricane mix from our friends at Pat O's in New Orleans. But if you know me, you know I'm a stickler for fresh ingredients. So this is my interpretation of Pat O's Hurricane. So we'll open up this packet with the cherries, which we're going to use for garnish. And there should be just a little bit of juice in there. So we're going to go ahead and just put that right into the mixing glass. And that's going to be our replacement for the grenadine. And we're going to hold on to those cherries now on the side. And that's going to be for our garnish. Now, whenever you're making a drink, we always want to start with the least expensive ingredients first, just in case we make a mistake. The next ingredient is fresh lime juice. Now, limes are they're the most fragile of all citrus, and they'll actually start to oxidize in about 20 minutes after you squeeze them. So here's a little tip. When you go to the store to pick out your limes, don't just start grabbing them from the bin. Take your time, and what you're looking for is a lime that has a nice dark green color, that has a thin skin, that's soft and plump. You just pop the sweet spot and it comes right apart. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready. Also in your kit, you saw some filthy black cherries. Generally, this drink calls for grenadine syrup. Now, the drink can be a little on the sweet side, and you could cheat it and buy the Hurricane mix from our friends at Pat O's in New Orleans. But if you know me, you know I'm a stickler for fresh ingredients. So this is my interpretation of Pat O's Hurricane. So we'll open up this packet with the cherries, which we're going to use for garnish. And there should be just a little bit of juice in there. So we're going to go ahead and just put that right into the mixing glass. And that's going to be our replacement for the grenadine. And we're going to hold on to those cherries now on the side, and that's going to be for our garnish. Now, whenever you're making a drink, we always want to start with the least expensive ingredients first, just in case we make a mistake. The next ingredient is fresh lime juice. Now limes are they're the most fragile of all citrus, and they'll actually start to oxidize in about 20 minutes after you squeeze them. So here's a little tip. When you go to the store to pick out your limes, don't just start grabbing them from the bin. Take the time, and what you're looking for is a lime that has a nice dark green color, that has a thin skin, that's soft and pliable to the touch. And a little tip for you, it's always best to leave your citrus out at room temperature before you squeeze it, because cold citrus is a little chintzy with the juice. All right, so we want 1 ounce of fresh squeezed lime juice, so we'll go right down the middle with a sharp knife or the equator, so it opens up like this. Also in your kit, you have your Modern Mixologist lime squeezer and a jigger. So we'll go ahead and 1 lime this size, almost every time, guaranteed to yield 1 ounce of juice. So when you're figuring how many drinks you're gonna make, 1 lime, 1 ounce of juice. But just to prove the point, I'm gonna squeeze that right into the small cone, which is known as the pony of our jigger. And we want it all the way to the top so that it's making, oh look at that, absolutely perfect, 1 ounce. A meniscus. And we'll just go ahead and add that, again, right to the mixing glass. Next comes orange juice. And I'm gonna use my Hamilton Beach crank juicer. So using a navel orange, cut it again the same way, right down the middle. And add orange this size, anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces of juice. So half of an orange should do it. I'm running that through a fine sieve just to catch any of the pulp or seeds. Then we just want a nice clean juice. So this is just an extra step. If you don't have a crank juicer at home, you can do it on one of those manual guys. You can squeeze it with your fingers. That always adds a little flavor. All right, and it's 1 ounce also of fresh orange juice, and that's all the way to the top. Beautiful. All right, passion fruit. Now the way this drink came to be was it was created during World War I, and now a lot of bourbon whiskey producers were producing alcohol for the war effort. So it was really difficult for buyers to get their hands on the most popular spirit of the time, which was whiskey. So to be able to buy a case of whiskey, we had plenty of rum, because the rum was coming over from the Caribbean and going down to Mississippi. We had to buy a couple of cases of rum to buy a case of whiskey. So everyone was swimming in rum, and particularly at Pat O's. So they sat around, they said, we have to come up with a drink to utilize some of this rum, just get it out of the storeroom. And they played with a lot of different ingredients, and passion fruit was the one that really worked. And any tropical fruits work really, really beautifully with rum. So we're gonna add 1 ounce of our Lieber & Co.'s passion fruit syrup. Goes straight in there. And then our other sweetener, to balance that acidity from the lime, is going to be gum syrup. Gum syrup is a simple syrup. It's a liquid sugar, and it's brought together with gum arabic. And gum arabic just adds this really beautiful texture to the syrup. All right, so we're going to add 1/2 ounce of our gum syrup. Goes straight in there. Beautiful. Oh, you can smell how fresh that is. Delicious. All right. Now, when it comes to rums, this drink calls for 2 different rums. Victor Bergeron was a magician at blending different styles of rum together to give him a complexity to a drink, generally a tropical style drink, that he couldn't find with one rum. So we're going to use Bacardi Superior, which is a silver rum. So we're going to use 150 ml. A 50 ml, if you're keeping track, is about 1.7 ounces. So we'll go ahead and add our 50 ml of the Bacardi Silver, and we're going to add a 50 ml of the Bacardi Gold. So we have 2 different rums, both from Bacardi, a lighter body and one that has a little more age character to it. So I believe now it's time to shake. Taking our mixing tin, we're gonna add 2/3 of it filled with ice. But before we do, I gotta talk a little bit about how important ice is in your cocktails. Ice is one of the most overlooked ingredients behind the bar, especially in the home bar today. Ice is gonna factor into virtually every cocktail you make and serve, and it's so hard to make great, clear, hard, dry ice at home. What I do is I use these silicone molds, with the ones that come with a cover. And I use purified water, I use reverse osmosis water, cover it up, 24 hours in the freezer, and you get some really nice looking, almost crystal clear cubes. If you're using ice that's coming out of your ice maker in your freezer, I'm gonna bet that it's probably really cloudy, almost white, because those ice makers make ice very quickly, so it never gets to be really hard, dry, cold, and there's nowhere for the air to go. Think about Mother Nature. When Mother Nature freezes a lake, she does it from the top down. So as the lake is freezing, pushing any sediment, any air down into the lake itself. So they used to cut the ice from the lake to make drinks with before the Industrial Revolution, that was this beautiful, hard, solid, big chunk of ice, and it was crystal clear. This is a True Cubes directional ice freezing mold. So you notice the holes. This makes 4 ice cubes in about 30 hours, and the way it works is as it freezes from the top down, it pushes that air through those holes down into the bottom part of the mold, and you end up with a beautiful, solid 2x2 crystal clear ice cube. And I tell you, when you up your ice game at home, you'll never be able to go back to the ice that your freezer makes. So I hope I didn't spoil that for you. We're gonna take about 2/3 of the way up on our mixing tin with cubed ice. And another little tip, we never want to serve the drink over the ice that we shaken the drink with, because we've already started to break this ice down. So always serve it over fresh ice. This is going to maintain the integrity of the drink. Now this is, if you've ever been to Pato's in New Orleans, this is like a 28-ounce cup. So I don't think I'm going to be able to fill it quite up, and probably better that I don't. If we're all ready now, we want to transfer the liquid into the ice-filled tin. Again, on a slight angle, we twist, we pop to make that seal, and if we've done it correctly, it won't come apart. Beautiful. All right, now we should be probably playing some, I don't know, some Zydeco music, something to get you in the mood here to really shake. All right, everyone together. As Gary Craddock said, you gotta wake it up, not rock it to sleep. Oh, I love that sound. All right, now we're ready. 2 fingers on the tin, 2 fingers on the glass, palm of your hand, pop the sweet spot, comes right apart. Oh. Now, in your kit, you also receive the Hawthorne strainer, which is the strainer with the spring, which fits beautifully into the mixing tin. 1 finger on top to hold it in place. Through the gate or the opening, we just strain that into our fresh ice-filled, a highball glass, a goblet. Oh. Now you notice it's not going to fill that glass, like I said, because this is almost a double-sized glass. But it's a fun glass, and I really wanted to use it. When you're at Pato's, you're going to see that the drink comes out bright red. And I'm not really sure where that color came from. But if you added some of the Lieber & Co. grenadine syrup, just make sure when you buy grenadine syrup that it's not just colored simple syrup, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, that it's actually made from pomegranates. All right, preparing our garnish. And I always say, never underestimate the importance of a garnish. We're gonna go down the middle of an orange. We're gonna put that flat on the side, and we're gonna cut it into half moons. All right, we're gonna make a pinwheel. We're gonna go back to our filthy cherry. We're gonna put it on a pick, a toothpick, shish kebab skewer, anything that you have laying around will work. We just place the cherry in between and pinwheel it together. So that holds it in place. There's our garnish. If you had one of those cute little paper umbrellas, I'd throw one of those on, throw a straw in there. Not like you're gonna get a Pat O's, but hopefully fresh, delicious hurricane. Let the good times roll. Oh, I gotta back up and kiss myself, that's so yummy. I taste the different rums, the passion fruit, the acidity from the lime, that fresh orange juice, just enough sweetness. I believe, Andrew, we got a question.
The brand of the ice mold again, and where can you buy it?
Oh, I don't know if you set us up for that question, but it's called True Cubes. And David's a good friend, the person who invented it. We sell them on our website at themodernmixologist.com. True Cubes, he has a website. So it's, it's, like I said, once you up your ice game, it's gonna be hard to go back. And if you like old fashions, if you like Negronis like I do, you serve it over one beautiful cube of ice, and you just elevate a simple drink to something really, like I said, elegant and special and sophisticated. Who knew? Ice. Any other questions? Oh, you wanted to know about the glass itself. Well, a very interesting story. Like I said, they had a surplus of rum that they needed to get rid of. But in the 1940s in New Orleans, and still to this day, you'll see these lanterns, and they're called hurricane lanterns. And this is actually the shape of a hurricane lantern is the shape of the glass. And let me just double check this real quick. So good. We're gonna use the Boston Shaker set for all three of our drinks. So if you wanna take a minute between sips, run into the kitchen, rinse everything off real quickly, reset, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna make the Sazerac, another New Orleans classic cocktail that one of my favorite whiskey cocktails, and well, we're learning a little bit more about it, but perhaps the first known cocktail. All right, I'm gonna rinse my stuff off and I'll be right back to mix some more drinks with you. All right. Boy, really good stuff. Any other questions that have come in? Beautiful. Our website is themodernmixologist.com. I am at Tony at themodernmixologist.com. I love my American Airlines Advantage members. So please, if you ever have a question that comes to you, you didn't think of it today, feel free to just shoot me an email and I'll get right back to you with the answer. Like I said, we're always posting stuff on our website. We do our monthly Making Great Cocktails at Home series as well. Love to have you tune in for that. All right, I'm gonna just set my, before I do though, I'm just gonna have one more sip. I think I gotta make a bigger straw to go with this glass. I love that it says, have fun on the glass itself. And after all, if we can't have fun doing this, I think we're missing out. The next drink is a stirred drink. It's the Sazerac. So what we're gonna use for this one is the mixing glass of your Boston Shaker set. Anytime we wanna stir a drink, we wanna stir it in the glass, just so we can see all the ingredients. And stirring a cocktail is such a, a swank way to prepare a drink. I always say about a Sazerac or any stirred cocktails, it should be like liquid satin. Fred Astaire in a glass. It's, it shouldn't be frothing and foaming like our hurricane was, but it should be silky smooth. And I think we have one more question here before we get started.
Regarding the hurricane, what brand of grenadine do you recommend?
I love all the syrups from our friends at Lieber & Co. They make a natural grenadine from pomegranate, and they add, again, the gum arabic, so it really lends a really nice texture. So any of the syrups from Lieber & Co., fantastic. But just, again, make sure that's a pure grenadine made from pomegranate.
Yeah. And then what is the difference between gum syrup and the simple syrup?
Okay, I touched on that briefly. The difference between gum syrup and simple syrup is a product called gum arabic, which is a resin from a tree. And it really, what it does is it adds a textural note. It makes the simple syrup even more silky, satiny. This really, if you make well, we're gonna make the next drink, it just adds a texture to the drink that you don't get with just natural or normal simple syrup. But great question. And it's a little tricky to make. You have to buy the gum arabic powder and then make a paste out of that with water and then bring that into the syrup itself. So I just love to use this one from Lieber. It's ready to go. And they also make a beautiful pineapple gum. For any Pisco fans out there, the Pisco Punch, which calls for pineapple gum, another fantastic simple drink that is just delicious and a lot of fun to serve your friends. All right.
And a virgin recommendation version of the cocktail?
Oh, for someone asked about a virgin. This is a great drink to lend itself to a virgin style of libation. And virgin drinks are a lot of fun. Just go up on the juices, but remember balance. That's why you notice I measured my acid, I measured my sweet ingredients, because if I put too much gum syrup in the drink's going to be a little too sweet. If I put too much lime juice in the Hurricane, the drink's going to be a little tart. If I put too much rum in the drink, well, I think the drink's going to be just fine. But you really want to balance those sweet and sour elements. So if you wanted to make it a non-alcoholic version, another way to stretch that, and we're going to add some Q Club Soda to our Ramus Gin Fizz, which is our third drink. Any of these really wonderful mixers, you can stretch that drink with and make it a little longer and just add a little fizz to it. But generally, doubling up on the juices and the sweeteners, good shake, and have fun with the garnishes, and you've got a really delicious non-alcoholic version. And you can also have fun with the rums. I mean, we use a light and dark rum or a light and gold rum from Bacardi, but there's a plethora of different rums up there you can just have some fun experimenting with. And that's the thing. My mom was a great, great chef. She could cook better than any of my Lebanese aunts, and she was Irish. But she always said, Tony, never trust a skinny chef. You gotta taste everything. And that's the fun thing about making drinks is, you want it a little sweeter, add a little more gum. If you want it a little tartar, add a little more lime. When passion fruits are in season, you can get them fresh. Add some scoop out of passion fruit. I mean, that just, again, lends itself to a lot of fun. Once you understand the basic recipe, 1-1-2, 2 parts strong, 1 part sweet, and 1 part sour. So I think I'm ready to move forward with the Sazerac. Sazerac is the official cocktail of New Orleans, created in New Orleans by, allegedly, Antoine Peychaud, who created his family, or brought his family's recipe for their bitters, the Peychaud bitters, to New Orleans, had a little place on Royal Street, and coffee shops were more common than bars, and apotherapy is where he plied his trade. He started adding French brandy, Sazerac de Fields brandy, not cognac, but brandy, with his bitters, with some sweetener, and named it after the brandy Sazerac de Fields. All right, so we're gonna start off with our bitters here. These are the Peychaud aromatic bitters. And when a recipe calls for a dash, that is not a dash. That's like a drop. What we want is we want to upside down 1, 2, 3 good dashes of Peychaud bitters. Peychauds can be a little difficult to find. It is the classic bitters for the Sazerac, which is why we wanted to include it in your kit. You could also substitute this out for Angostura or orange bitters, or a combination of bitters. Remember that the bitters are the salt and pepper to mixology. They just add another layer of complexity, another layer of flavor. It just brings another element to the final drink. So 3 good dashes of Peychaud bitters, and we're gonna add 1 teaspoon. Your bar spoon that came with your kit, if we measure on the bowl of the spoon, that is 1 teaspoon. So the spoon itself doubles as a measurement. And I don't go all the way to the top, but just to the edge, and there's 1 teaspoon of our gum syrup that goes right in there. Now, before we go any further with the actual making of the drink, let's start chilling the glass. So an old-fashioned glass is what we're gonna serve this with, and a basic rule, cold drink, cold glass. So when I make Sazeracs, the first thing I do is I just put ice in the glass and I set it on the side. I may take my bar spoon just because I love stirring things and just give it a little stir to start chilling the glass itself. Because we're not gonna serve our Sazerac with ice. So we wanna make sure that we have a really cold glass to maintain the integrity of the drink itself. So when you come to my house and you look in my freezer, I've got a bunch of different ice, 4 or 5 bottles of frozen vodka, and a bunch of cocktail glasses, martini glasses. Because when my friends stop over and I make them a martini or a Manhattan, and I've got the glasses already frozen in the freezer, and they look so sexy when they come out, and they're the beautiful crystal glass, that frost on it, and before I even put the cocktail in, remember, great drinks, like life, are about details. We're not needing to recreate the wheel, just make the best wheel that we can make, and that's paying attention to the details. So I'm getting my glass nice and cold here, and then I'm just gonna leave this alone and come back to making the drink. So to recap, what I have in the mixing glass itself right now, 3 dashes of Peychaud bitters, 1 teaspoon or a bar spoon of gum syrup, and then we're gonna add our 50 ml of Jack Daniel's rye whiskey right there. Now I started with a history lesson about the Sazerac, that it was originally made with Sazerac de Field's brandy. So the drink started its life as a brandy-based drink. What happened was that along comes this little louse in the 1860s called phylloxera, and phylloxera wiped out all the vines in Europe, or the majority of the vines. So to make brandy, you have to have grapes. So that was the end of brandy, and they didn't want the drink to disappear, so rye whiskey was starting to become more popular, and that was the original American whiskey. So they substituted rye whiskey for the brandy, and that is how the drink is served today. That is how we're making it today. It's fun to make the original recipe with a French brandy, and another thing that's fun to do is a split base of brandy and rye whiskey. So again, just have fun. Just like it says on the glass, have fun. All right, so our Sazerac is good to go. We're gonna add ice now to the mixing glass. And another little myth I wanna do away with. You know the old story, I'll have a martini, but don't bruise the gin. Can you really bruise gin? No, but what you can do is you can over dilute it. This drink should be about 20 to 22% water. And that water is coming from ice. Yes, that hard, cold, dry ice, which is another reason to pay attention to your ice. Once we go beyond that 20% dilution, we're doing what was known as bruising the gin, over diluting the drink. So 20%, the drink blossoms, it opens up, it becomes more than the sum of the parts brought together by that water. Once you go beyond that, well, you start to over dilute it. That's why that myth, less ice, less dilution. More ice, less dilution. Now, if you've never stirred a cocktail, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take the spoon between your first 2 fingers and your thumb, take these 2 fingers out of the equation. Put the bowl of the spoon, and you notice there's a 24-degree angle, that was a little design twist that we came up with, along the side of the glass. And what it is, it's a push, pull, push, pull. motion. And you don't move your hand around like this. You're not making gumbo. You're stirring. It's elegant. It's swank. You should hear Frank Sinatra playing in your head. And you just move the spoon up and down, keep it along the outside of the glass. My cousin Helen David, God rest her soul, she ran the Brass Rail Bar in Port Huron, Michigan for nearly 70 years. And first person to put a cocktail shaker in my hand. And I remember she said, and I asked her, so how long do you stir a drink for? And she said, Tony, you stir it 20 times to the right and 20 times to the left. And again, it's just fun. It's just fun to practice. You can put water and ice in front of the TV and just practice. Although I find that gin and vermouth are a lot more fun than water and ice. All right, so that's about 20 times to the right and 20 times to the left. We're gonna let that sit just for a second. Go back to our glass now that we've prepared our chill, and we'll go ahead and in your kit, you've got a little atomizer of absinthe. It's the reason we put it in an atomizer is we just want to coat the inside of the glass with the absinthe. It becomes, again, another element to the drink. So we just go ahead and, you can smell that, the anise, almost like black licorice. And it's great that we're able to, once again, use absinthe because absinthe in 1912 was outlawed in the United States, was outlawed in most of the world because they thought that the thurgeon in the absinthe made you have these hallucinogenic trips and do crazy things like Van Gogh cut his ear off. And it turns out that, you know, a lot of it is like 140 proof, so it might have been something more to do with the alcohol strength than thurgeon because they discovered that you couldn't consume enough thurgeon drinking absinthe to actually have a hallucinogenic trip. And trust me, I've tried. So it becomes this crucial element in a Sazerac. It dates back to the definition of a cocktail from 1806 of strong spirit of any type, water, sugar, and bitters. And that's pretty much what we have here with the addition of the absinthe. All right, our glass is ready. We take our Hawthorne strainer again, place that into the mixing glass, finger on top, pour that out into our chilled absinthe prepared glass. All right, and now we prepare our garnish. This calls for a swath of lemon peel. I like to use a V or Y-shaped vegetable peeler to make my swaths. What we want to do, and be very, very careful because this is very sharp. I learned that the hard way. First time I was on Iron Chef America, I'm making cocktails, and 5 minutes into the battle, I'm making a ginger syrup, and I'm nervous, and the lights and the smoke everywhere, and I'm peeling this ginger root with my peeler, and I just clipped the tip of my thumb. You would have thought I had a major artery. I mean, this thing's spewing blood everywhere. I mean, the medics coming over, the camera people, and I'm laughing. Anyway, so what I want you to do is grasp the lemon and pull away from your digits, nice and slowly, and get a nice large, you can already see those oils coming out of the rind. And we can go ahead and just use that. But what I like to do is I like to take a sharp knife and I just clean up the edges, all right? I just make it look a little sexier because we're gonna, remember, we taste with all of our senses. So I've taken that swath, I've cleaned it up, and what we're after here are the oils on the outside in the rind. Those become an ingredient in the drink itself. So we wanna make sure we expel those over the drink, and you only get 1 or 2 shots at it. So you wanna quickly, and if you do it properly, you can see those oils leaving the rind, landing on the top of your Sazerac, and almost looking back at you laughing. And you just drop that in, and there you have, best we can tell, from 1838, New Orleans, their drink of the city, Sazerac. Oh, the absinthe and the lemon zest, lovely, lovely. Oh, so good. Just the right balance, not overly sweet, that lovely texture that the gum syrup provides, the acidity here coming from just that lemon zest is just enough. And then the salt and pepper from the Peychaud bitters that brings it all together with that Jack Rye whiskey, that spicy whiskey. Ah, delicious. I think we have a question. Andrea?
We have a few.
We have some questions. Yay, I love questions.
What are the differences?
Before we get into the questions, if you want to take a minute while I'm answering some of these questions to rinse your mixing glass, we are going to use it for the next cocktail. Rinse out your jigger, rinse your Hawthorne strainer, and I'm just going to add work on this one. So, Andrea, what are the differences?
Between the type of bitters I see in the stores, should I have more than one?
Fantastic question on bitters. You know, bitters are an ingredient that really didn't survive Prohibition. Prior to Prohibition, every decent bar would have 8, 10, 12 different bitters, a lot of which they would make proprietary in-house. And that's how Peychaud's came to be. It was a family recipe, it was a proprietary recipe for bitters that he brought to New Orleans and started making, and you know, it is a bitter that has survived the test of time. Angostura bitters, by far the best known bitters. You know, unfortunately, even with Angostura, it got eliminated from most drinks outside of an old-fashioned and maybe a Manhattan. Use your bitters. You know the old story about Angostura bitters? What lasts longer, your marriage or your bottle of Angostura bitters? Use your bitters. But yes, different drinks call for different styles of bitters. So as you go and study cocktail books, you might come across the casino cocktail that calls for orange bitters. So a bottle of orange bitters. I love Peychaud's, obviously in a Sazerac, but with any Scotch-based drinks. Something called a Bobby Burns. And then Angostura is my go-to for pretty much everything. If you can find a bottle of Tony Ebbleganum Pecan Chicory Bitters, goes beautifully with aged rum in swizzles and tropical drinks. So get a couple different bottles of bitters. Another question, Andrea.
To make the Sazerac with brandy is the only change to the recipe to substitute brandy for whiskey.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, it was a French brandy, which means it was brandy that was made outside of the Cognac region in France. But a VSOP Cognac, lovely. Even a VS Cognac, lovely. You can try some California brandies, but to stay true to the recipe, it was a French brandy that was used with the Peychaud bitters, with the simple syrup or gum syrup, and absinthe. If you can't find absinthe, although this little vial that we sent you will probably make about a dozen Sazeracs, when it was outlawed, they created something called Herb Saint. And Herb Saint was a substitute for absinthe that didn't contain the thurgeon. So absinthe is substitute Herb Saint.
I love the atomizer idea. How do you do that? Could you do it with vermouth in a martini?
Another great question. Could you use the atomizer for vermouth in a martini? That kind of stings me a little bit because I have a theory, as I have many theories, on why we as Americans started drinking our martinis drier and drier and drier, meaning less and less vermouth, a dusting from an atomizer of vermouth. It was the quality and the treatment of the vermouth itself. Vermouth is an aromatized wine. Once open, it should be treated like wine. It should be kept in the refrigerator, and you should use a bottle of dry vermouth in 4 to 6 weeks tops. So if you can imagine that you've had that bottle of vermouth that's been sitting up in your liquor cabinet next to the bottle of gin, and it's been there for 6 years, it's beyond vinegar. Throw it away. I always recommend to buy the 375, the small bottles, keep it in the refrigerator, and try to go through it quickly. At my house, I do the math. I make a 4-to-1 martini. So 4 parts gin, 1 part vermouth, which is quite wet. That's about a half an ounce of vermouth per drink. 375 is 12.5 ounces, so that's 1 martini per day, 1/2 ounce per day divided by 30, almost works out perfectly. But yeah, if you like a really, really dry martini, you can by all means put your dry vermouth in an atomizer and just mist your cold glass so you get more of just the aromatics of all the herbal herbaceousness of the dry vermouth. But try one 4 to 1, just like my recipe, 2.5 ounces of gin to just over a half ounce of vermouth, and just make sure it's good French dry vermouth. Great question.
Couple more.
Yeah.
How much does the quality of the rye matter, and what are your favorite rye whiskeys?
Well, I love the Jack Daniel's rye. Traditionally Jack Daniel's makes Tennessee whiskey. The only difference between a bourbon and a Tennessee is the Lincoln County process, where they mellow the whiskey through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal. But there are some wonderful rye whiskeys available today. Rye was a dead category even 15 years ago. You could maybe find 2 or 3 different labelings. Old Overhaul, still a staple. Jim Beam Yellow Label, another solid rye whiskey. Wild Turkey makes their 101 rye, was always my go-to. But today, the Sazerac company, who owns Peychaud's Bitters, they make the Sazerac rye, which, maybe it's just the name, Sazerac rye, with the Sazerac cocktail, with the Peychaud Bitters, but they all work really beautifully together in this drink. But I'm gonna put you on the hunt. If you like rye whiskey, keep your eye open for a bottle of Pikesville rye. It's very allocated, it's hard to find, it's made by Heaven Hill, but when you do find a bottle, snag it. And if there's 2 there, be a little greedy and take them both. It's one of my all-time favorite whiskeys, and definitely one of my favorite rye whiskeys. All right.
Someone wants to know if you've ever had a Sazerac at the Sazerac Lounge in New Orleans.
Oh, absolutely I have. Yeah. I was going to say, next time you're in New Orleans, you got to go by the Sazerac at the Roosevelt Hotel and have a drink. They've been making them there since they took it over as the Sazerac Bar. I believe it was the late 1930s, so just after the repeal of Prohibition. And a while back, before they remodeled, used to go in and they would put the absinthe in the old-fashioned glass, and I'm not going to do it here, but they would throw it up in the air and the glass would spin and coat the inside of the glass, much like we did with the atomizer with the absinthe. So it is a fantastic place, and I believe they use the Sazerac rye in their Sazerac, and I also believe that they still use Herb Saint in the Sazerac. They haven't gone back to using the original absinthe. But that's a great bar. That's an Art Deco bar. It's a beautiful place, not only to have a Sazerac, but to have this next drink that we're going to make together, maybe my favorite New Orleans drink, the Ramus Gin Fizz. This is a drink that there are some great places to have a Ramus Gin Fizz. You can go to 2 Jacks and they'll make you a beautiful Ramus Gin Fizz. You can go to Carousel Bar at the Hotel Monteleone. They'll make a beautiful Ramus. But I think my favorite Ramus Gin Fizz has got to be the Sazerac Bar at the Roosevelt Hotel in New Orleans. So if we don't have any questions, we're going to jump right into it as soon as I have another sip of my Sazerac.
And you can let them know the atomizers are a line of Berlin packaging.
Beautiful. If you need more of these cool little atomizers to put your vermouth in or whatever you'd like, Berlin Packaging is where we source these from. They have different sizes, but this is really wonderful, and just enough absinthe so you get those notes of fennel and licorice without it overpowering the drink. Because, like I said, like life, a great cocktail is about balance. This should be a rye whiskey cocktail. The other ingredients are there just to make it more than the sum of the parts and make it a Sazerac. All right, so we're going to jump right in and make the Ramus Gin Fizz. The Ramus Gin Fizz calls for egg white. Fizzes in generally use egg white. What egg white does, doesn't really add any flavor to the drink, but it again changes the texture and the appearance of the drink. Whenever I'm making an egg white drink, I always start with the egg white first, because it would be such a crime against nature if I put my 50 ml of Bombay Sapphire gin in there, cracked my egg, and the yolk went in, and I had to throw the whole thing away. So this way, if I make a mistake, and I thought I made a mistake once, but I was wrong. We can just start all over with the egg. This is the way my cousin Helen David, who made Tom and Jerry's every holiday season for 70 years, which is an egg batter holiday warm drink, taught me to separate eggs. So I usually save that and put it in with my dog's food, but we'll go ahead. Now we have the white of one egg straight in the mixing glass. This is a shake and drink, and when I say shaken, I mean shake it until your arm gets tired. The story is Henry Ramos at the Imperial Cabinet Saloon in 1888. Better have another sip of this, I'm starting to get my dates wrong. 1888, first created the Ramos Gin Fizz, named after himself. So it takes a lot of shaking. When he bought the Stag in 1907, he would hire up to 35 shaker boys. And what they would do is they would shake the shaker until their arm got tired and pass it to the next shaker boy. And legend has it that a Ramos Gin Fizz needs to be shaken for 12 minutes, but we're gonna do the speeded up version. All right, so we have our egg white. We need heavy cream. We're gonna add 3/4 of an ounce of heavy cream. So on your jigger, the jigger is the large cone, which measures 1.5 ounces. You'll notice a line in the middle that says 0.75. So we'll go all the way to the top of that line with our heavy cream, which goes right in there. Now this also calls for lime and lemon juice, 1/2 ounce. So we're using our Modern Mixologist handheld lime squeezer. I love this tool. I mean, if you're making drinks or you're making ceviche, and it's ergonomically designed so even those of you with the smallest hands should be able to have no problem squeezing out the fresh juice. So we're gonna go 1/2 ounce of fresh lemon juice, and that goes right in there as well. Next, 1/2 ounce of fresh lime. Obviously, you could mix it up, use all lemon if you didn't have a lime, but I like the blend of citrus. Even in my margarita, I like to use both lemon and lime. So 1/2 ounce, which should be 1/2 lime, and lo and behold, it is. All right, so 1/2 ounce of lime juice goes straight in there. And we have to be able to balance that acidity. And if you remember this equation, 1:1. So we have 1 ounce between our lime and lemon, 1/2 ounce of each. We need 1 ounce of our gum syrup to balance that out. So all the way to the top of the pony is 1 ounce. All right. And the magic ingredient, at least I feel the magic ingredient in this, has got to be the Fee Brothers Orange Flower Water. This was really what differentiated Ramos's Fizz from a classic fizz or silver fizz. So this stuff is very, very concentrated. You just want to make sure you add 3 dashes of orange flower water. Now, much like sweetening a drink, it's easier to sweeten a drink that's a little tart than to adjust one that's overly sweet. Same thing with orange flower water. You could always add a little bit more. It's just going to be really difficult to take it out. So to just kind of go through what we have here again, we have 1 egg white, we have 3 dashes of Fee Brothers Orange Flower Water, 1 ounce of our gum syrup, 1/2 ounce lime, 1/2 ounce lemon, fresh, 3/4 ounce heavy cream, and gin. So we're going to use the Bombay Sapphire Gin. I find the Bombay Sapphire Gin is, it's a lighter style gin. You get the juniper, but very nicely incorporated with the floral notes and the citrus notes. Really lovely for a gin fizz. So 150 ml, a little over 1.7 ounces. We take the mixing tin once again, 2/3 of the way full. And this is where you really want to make sure you make a good seal, because you don't want to be wearing cream and egg and all of these things on your shoulders. So pouring everything in, twist, so we make a really good seal, pop, Notice it on the slight angle, and then crank up to Jimmy Buffett and have at it. Like I said, at the Sazerac bar at the Roosevelt Hotel, I asked the bartender, how long do you shake your Ramus Gin Fizz? He said, we shake it 50 times. I said, and you count those? 12 minutes is how long they shook it at the Stag. Because it really needs to take on a consistency that becomes almost ropey, almost like a cloud, like a pillow. There's a great saying that drinking a beautiful Ramus Gin Fizz is like drinking a flower. So have at it. Just, you know, if you get tired, take a break and have a sip of your Sazerac. All right, back at it. Now, the tin is getting nice cold. We're really emulsifying that egg white, getting it frothy and foaming. Oh, phew, getting the sweat going here. I sure wish I had somebody I could pass this to. Oh, thank you, Tom. While Tom continues to shake, we'll take another question.
In the juicer, does the line go cut side up or down?
Oh, great question. Cut your line right across the equator, and then it works like a large garlic press, where you put the cut side down facing the holes, so as you squeeze it, you expel all of that juice, and you'll get really good at this. Boom, is that too fast for everyone? Through those holes. And don't put your lime squeezer in your dishwasher. Just some warm soapy water, wash it off, let it air dry. And it'll, like I said, ceviche, margaritas, cosmopolitan, factories. You'll be making great cocktails with fresh lime for a long time. Yeah, another question.
You can use carton egg white instead of a regular egg white, correct?
Absolutely. Pasteurized or cartoned egg whites work fine. If you just make sure that if you're using fresh eggs, that they are fresh. Helen made thousands of Tom and Jerry's for fresh eggs. Never lost a customer. But pasteurized eggs work perfectly as well. Tom, how are we doing? Oh, we got another question?
Look pretty
Can
good.
you use Fee Brothers Fee foam instead of egg whites?
Yes and no. This is one drink I think that really needs the egg white. Because this drink is built around the egg white. I think what you're talking about is kind of like you can use chickpea water, which aquafaba, which also gives you the same kind of creaminess on certain drinks. But in this drink, I really think the egg white makes the drink.
And it's safe to eat.
And it's safe, yeah, safe to eat. You got alcohol in here, you got citrus in here, all those things coming together. But if you don't do eggs, then that's probably your best option, something like that, or the aquafaba, which is the chickpea water. All right, I'm going to serve this in a Collins glass after I give it just one more shake. Thank you, Tom. All right. Again, we break the seal on the sweet spot. Oh, hello, beautiful. When I first moved to San Francisco in 1985, I worked with a bartender by the name of Uncle Bob. And Uncle Bob and I worked brunch on Saturday and Sunday. It was my first experience with the Ramus Gin Fizz. And we would make hundreds of these things. And people would come from all over for Uncle Bob's Ramus Gin Fizz. And so I got pretty good at making them and fell in love with the drink. But it's a difficult drink that a lot of bartenders might not be excited to make and might not even offer at their places. But you find a bartender who loves making them, and you found a great bartender. So just pouring that out through using our julep strainer again. Look at that beautiful ropey consistency. I guess we shook that for about, 6 or 7 minutes anyway. All right. And that just comes up beautifully on the Collins glass. Generally, I'll let that sit for just a second. Let it settle just a bit while we answer another question.
What are are some other uses for orange flower water?
Wow, that is a great question. Other than cooking, baking, my mom, again, great Lebanese cook, would use it in mamouls and things like that, and pastries. Cocktail-wise, nothing really jumps out to me, and that's why a bottle of orange flower water generally lasts a long time. But that's the fun part about it. This type of drink, gin works beautifully with these orange blossom notes, because a lot of those are found naturally in gin. Orange is a very common botanical in a lot of gins. So orange-based drinks work really nice with orange flower water and citrusy style gins, which is another reason I chose the Bombay Sapphire. So if you come across one, shoot me a recipe at Tony at the Modern Mixologist. I'd love to add it to my repertoire. Great question. Any other? Okay, we're good. We're patience. That's the thing, the patience. You'll see that this is starting to settle. I love using the small cans or bottles of soda. And a little tip, you always want to make sure that they're ice cold, because ice keeps a cold drink cold, but will dilute with a warm mixer. But in the case of the soda water here, by keeping it cold, you hold on to the integrity of that beautiful bubble. And that's what this brings this drink to life, is just that bubble, that carbonation, that tickle that the soda is going to lend.
Is there a substitute for those club soda in this drink?
Well, you could use a mineral water. You could use, Perrier. You could use flavored mineral waters, flavored soda waters. Q makes a grapefruit. Again, we're playing with the citrus flavors here, so a grapefruit soda is a lot of fun. Some of the Pellegrino flavored sodas, again, you're just adding another layer of flavor, but something with some carbonation. If you want, if you have one of those seltzer bottles at home that you just add your own water to and carbonate, those are a lot of fun too. So like I said, I like these little cans because I just want to make sure we hold on to that bubble. And then we just add that a little at a time, and you see it starting to come to life. And if we've done it right, we'll exceed the level of the glass itself. And if you get really good, you can go up like an inch on this. I'm not feeling that good about it, but it's, like I say, drinking a great cocktail is like enjoying great food, where it's all about the senses. So the right glass, how it feels in your hand, the visual of the drink, the aroma of the drink, obviously the taste. And if I was with all my American Airlines Advantage members in person and we could share a drink, the way the drink sounds when two glasses come together. So consider all the senses when making great cocktails. Look at how beautiful that is. Yes, Andrea.
Last two questions. Each of these drinks seem very labor intensive. Are there any shortcuts that bartenders can use while taking care of a busy bar, and do you offer classes in Las Vegas?
What we would do with the Ramus Gin Fizz, the stick blender. Stick blender is a great way to speed up the process. You could do that in 30 seconds on a stick blender. Not quite the same texture, not quite the same experience, but a way to speed things up. Anything that you can do in advance as far as batching speeds things up. For instance, I could have mixed everything other than the 2 different rums in my Hurricane and just add the mix with the rum, quick shake and pour. So if I'm having a party at home, I'm gonna batch that up the night before, so I don't have to spend the whole party in the kitchen making drinks. Just finish the drinks, or make it into a punch. Punch bowls are a great way to speed things up. But yeah, the Sazerac, you really need to show it the love and make it a la minute, just the way we made it together. Hope that helps. Was that our last question?
That's the last one.
Wow, well, I gotta tell you, this has been so much fun. On behalf of American Airlines, MasterCard, and myself, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today for a priceless Mardi Gras mixology class. You know, and again, a big thank you to all of our American Airlines Advantage members. Thank you for your support. And I'd like to just leave everyone with a quick Mardi Gras toast. In the presence of a well-made Reynolds Gin Fizz shared with my American Airlines Advantage member brothers and sisters, taunt nerves relax, taunt muscles relax, eyes brighten, friendships deepen, and the whole world becomes a better place in which to live. Cheers, much love and happiness. Let's see what this is all about. Oh, so good, so good. Happy Mardi Gras, everyone.